If you are a mom who dreads dinner time, you are gonna love my guest today. I recently met with my friend Erin. She is super relatable and super entertaining. We talked about her struggles with feeding her family. We talked about the societal pressures of being a mom, the pressures we get from social media, and we talked about her sobriety journey. We worked on a meal plan with lots of meal ideas, and we cooked a couple of those meals using what she had on hand. You're gonna wanna watch till the end and subscribe for more. Okay, we are at Erin's house, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Hello.
Come on in.
Yay.
Help me.
I know. I'm so excited to be here. This is my friend Erin. We met through Instagram. The thing that I love the most about you is you're very honest and candid about sharing the things that make you self-conscious. And all of them are things that people can really relate to. For example, spending.
I feel like social media, I took it to be like therapy. So I just speak my truth all the time. But yeah, I was a chronic overspender, which I'm sure so many of you are. Don't lie. So I've been taking steps to.
And that's the other thing that I love so much about you and your social media is that you're constantly in a state of self-improvement, but you're public about it. So you'll go find the books and be like, I read this and this is what I want to try, or this is what I don't think is going to work for me, and you discuss it.
I have a little thing called hyperfixation. Every month or every season, I have like a thing that I'm just like, you need to control your spending, or you need to work on your anxiety, or you need to become sober, which I did.
Last year with your sobriety journey,
yes.
Like, how do you feel that that played into your spending?
So when you take away a crutch like alcohol.
And by the way, just a little backstory. Erin was never what you would have expected when you think alcoholic. It was more of like the mommy wine culture.
Yes.
But it was becoming a problem.
Yes.
You recognized that it was a problem.
Yeah.
You decided to do Sober January.
Yep.
And you never looked back.
No, yeah. It was one of those things when you stop, you see how big of a problem it was. And when I started to talk about it, so many people also realized that like, oh, having like 3 glasses of wine a night isn't normal. But yet culture kind of tells you that that's normal. Like, mommy needs her wine, mommy needs wine while I'm cooking, mommy needs wine to wind down, and next thing you know, you're drinking wine like all the time, and you're really reliant on it. Once I took away the crutch of alcohol, you have nothing else to do but like sit in your discomfort. You just like start peeling back all this stuff, and you see like, oh, everything is connected.
Yeah.
Like, the alcohol with the overspending, eating, or you can't keep up with things, like all connected to like impulsivity, or it's all the same.
And one thing that you really uncovered a lot during that journey was like all of the guilt and the mom guilt about not being enough, and how much you spoke about it and how much it spoke to people, because I think so many people on social media, so many of these big accounts, you see either they're picture perfect or they're unapologetically a mess. And what I love about you is that you're not unapologetic about the things that you're insecure about. You're like, well, these are things that I want to work on. We all have those days, we all have those moments, we all have those quirks, but actively being like, no, I want to work on this. Like, I want to be better. And I love that about you.
Thank you.
Because so many people just turn a blind eye or
are too shamed
and stay in their guilt and don't publicly share it.
Yeah. Like, I be the person I want to see online. Like, I get so much value from people speaking their truth or being honest or overcoming the struggles that you don't feel alone. And I never want people to feel alone. Like,
there's always somebody that can relate and that can be helped by that. So in terms of the mom guilt and in terms of the food, like what's going on with that situation? What's your biggest struggle?
Okay, so like every mom, like I struggle with being like, oh my God, are the kids having too much sugar? Or like they're not eating enough vegetables. But also meals are boring. I feel like we eat the same thing over and over again. I don't feel the urge to try new things. Or
you said you're bored with what you're eating.
Yes.
You're not into it anymore.
No.
And also you're hesitant to change what you're doing because what you're doing is working with the kids.
That's right.
I think we can all relate to that. How many of us are, stuck in the macaroni and cheese and spaghetti rotation because we know the kids are going to eat it?
Yeah.
I'm good to hyperfixate on this meal for, 2 weeks, but after that, I never want to see it again. But the kids don't feel that way.
I know. I feel like everybody's like rotation is like tacos, noodles, chicken.
Okay. This is something that I feel like we can tackle, and I brought a board,
Okay.
and let's
love a
do
board.
it.
I love a board.
Okay. The problem here is that your kids want to eat 4 different meals, yeah?
Yeah.
And you would like to have more variety.
Yeah.
How picky are they?
They're children picky, but like they're not super picky.
They're getting older, right? They're less picky than they were.
They'll try it, and they might eat it or they might not.
What happens if they don't eat what you give them?
Oh.
Do they just get something else, or what's the solution?
I'm not very consistent.
Yeah, it's okay. We're not either.
Normally it'd be like, go make some toast or
Yeah.
go with, but that's trouble. I saw your video on that.
Well, it might not be trouble if they're not doing it regularly.
True. And mostly I put something that they will eat
Yeah.
on the plate. Like one daughter really loves Kraft dinner, so there's usually some Kraft dinner floating around that. I'll put a little bit on her plate and then
Some
give her
other
the
things.
chicken or whatever that she doesn't like. She'll try.
Meal number 1.
Okay. Classic chicken dinner.
Meal 2.
Any type of noodles, but let's just say
Pasta.
tacos. And usually by this time I'm like scrounging for ideas.
Meatloaf, you said?
Meatloaf, that's right.
Meatloaf plus potatoes,
Yeah.
yeah?
And like a veggie.
Do they eat rice?
They do, but that's something I would like help with too, is a like rice with honey on it.
Honey?
Yeah.
I've never tried that. I've never heard of that.
It's good. They love sweet things. So they're not big on like stir fry type of thing, but they'll love like a white rice.
Yeah, I get that. When we do stir fry, the
Kids.
kids basically eat white rice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's come up with ideas that are adjacent
Okay.
to these 4 things
Oh.
that potentially they will eat. So pasta seems like a fairly easy one, right? You've got spaghetti.
Yep. Always.
Will they eat lasagna?
Okay, yes. But for some reason they only like Olive Garden lasagna.
What about macaroni and cheese? That
For
would be one.
sure.
Do they like Alfredo?
Maybe.
I'm assuming pesto's off the list here.
I think they like the taste of pesto, but because it's green, I think it freaks them out.
Like hamburger helper or something like that.
Yeah, I think maybe they could get into that.
Do they do chili? Would they do like chili mac?
One likes chili, one doesn't. So
Have you tried chili mac? Would she just be like, no, there's beans in this?
funny enough, they like beans. My children are anomalies.
Yeah,
but-
you never know, right? Put chili mac with a question mark. Well, I think the goal is to come up with like 5 ideas of adjacent meals that they might be interested in.
that are relatively easy to make.
The varieties of tacos, right? They like chicken.
Yeah.
They would do chicken tacos. Probably. Fajitas,
Maybe. We've never tried the fajitas.
nachos,
Nachos for sure.
burritos.
Sure.
So maybe enchiladas.
Sauce on the side.
I guess would require you to make it in 2 pans instead of 1, right? Which is kind of annoying, but like
That's less annoying than
making 2
making
full
toast
meals.
or
The thing with like making a meal 2 different ways is that it still gives them the exposure, kind of getting into the habit of like, okay, we're gonna eat something different and I'm gonna try it and it'll probably be fine. And
totally.
chicken and potatoes is a harder one. But
It
will
is.
they eat pork chops?
Probably.
So
Rice with
chicken-
pork chops
chicken
is-
parm?
Yeah.
Do they do chicken and dumplings? Have you done that?
No, I've
They
never done
probably
that.
would like that. Chicken pot pie.
Okay, yes,
Mm-hmm.
in theory. They used to really like chicken pot pie, and I was doing it maybe too often.
I get that.
Which is the problem, right? When it's like, well, it's working and they like
Yeah,
it, and
so
you ask
keep
them,
doing
what do they want?
They do chicken noodle soup.
They love chicken noodle soup. From the can, though,
Pretty straightforward. You can just add extra stuff to the cans, right? Like nobody says you can't throw leftover rotisserie
True.
chicken and stuff into the
oh
can.
yeah, I never thought of that.
And now it's a
More
full
noodles.
meal. Ribs.
Yes, one would maybe.
You
like
know what?
eight.
In my family, if 2/3 of the kids eat it, I call it a win.
Yeah.
Meatloaf and potatoes. Meatballs. They do
Yeah.
Meatballs. What else we got in the
We-
meatloaf category?
Sloppy Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Sloppy
Ooh,
Joe.
Sloppy Joes. You just
Soaking up your energy.
you've got it. Make 2 meatloafs, right? Like meal prep them, put them in the freezer or whatever. So
Okay.
now you don't have to do the work the second time.
Okay. You lost me at making 2 meatloafs at the same time. I was like, oh, I should do that.
If it's something that you do, will they eat freezer meals? Will they eat?
Well, that's something I'm not sure because my brain doesn't think to do that. So, episode 2.
Could it be like turkey meatballs, or like does it have to be? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure. I'm trying. It's usually all in the branding.
That's
and the
true.
delivery.
Like a poutine with like.
Okay. This is so many more ideas than I would have thought of.
And they're all close-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing out of the realm of like, whoa, mom, what the heck is
Yes.
this?
This is your pantry.
Welcome to my pantry. My pantry, like back when my kids were small, my pantry used to be like stocked, right? Because like I had so much mom anxiety. I didn't know how to shop. I didn't know how to budget. I get so overwhelmed at stores, and I just thought like being a good mom would just be like making sure it's stocked, right? And you see everybody on like Pinterest and like the Kardashians and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like a store inside your house, right?
Yeah.
I would just like overshop all the time. Like it felt like really safe to me for some reason.
Okay, I think that that's something that a lot of people can relate to. Like just feeling like in order to be a good mom, you have to have everything,
Yeah.
and you have to have it all together, you have to have it figured out, and spending money out of guilt.
Yeah.
For what? Just comparison game.
And it's just everything you see online. It's like, here, and then I put the snacks in another bin.
And what changed all of that for you?
I think it really was sobriety, because when I was drinking, like when you wake up the next day, like you feel fine because you do it all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your nervous system is out of whack because of the alcohol in your body. I'm a nervous person to begin with, so mine was like way out of whack.
Yeah. You felt like you were trying to fix
Yes.
that feeling.
Totally.
And using like retail therapy, which we all joke about, but when you go out and buy a bunch of new clothes for yourself,
Yeah.
you feel like you do get that rush, but you feel guilty about it after.
Yes.
But you didn't feel guilty about it because it was food, it was something for your family, it was something that you needed.
Yes and no, because I feel like it's all the same. I think I was trying to overcompensate. When you wake up and you know, oh, I shouldn't have drank that much last night, and like you're upset at yourself to begin with, and you don't sort through those problems, and you don't feel enough to begin with, and then you have that dysregulated thing. I wanted to buy everything, so then I'd be like, good job, you're a good mom.
You were a good mom, even
Yes.
within, like I watched the journey. I've always been somebody who was very involved with your kids.
Oh, thanks.
Even then, when I didn't know you had a problem, because nobody did, because
No.
really, like, well, and it was nighttime. It wasn't during the day when you
Yeah.
were, sharing your public life and
No.
whatever. And I love that you were able to realize, like, this isn't working for me and my family.
Yeah.
Even though you were a good mom, I mean, you probably didn't feel like it at the time,
No,
but
you still don't. Like even
Yeah.
like you're telling me this, and I'm like, yeah, right.
Did your mom cook a lot growing up?
She did. Yeah, we had home cooked meals.
And
like,
you're a good
lot.
cook.
Yes, I just.
I know you don't have to love it. Yeah, it's every day, all the time, isn't it?
But now I got a handle on the spending type of thing, because we worked through. It was insane how much when we looked at the spending. My husband and I would always have a monthly meeting and say, okay, this is what we spent money on. Like my category was insane, like thousands of dollars and I couldn't even show you for what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, you spent like $400 on clothing this month for the kids, but did they really need it? And he's like, well, yeah, they need this. And same with the groceries. Like it was like insane how much I was spending on groceries, but because I wasn't like thinking about it. I credit following you, because you showed me like shop like the day olds or use what we have. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, like I never would have freaking thought to do that. Like that's why it's so important for people to share what you're sharing or share your feelings, because people are like, oh, I never knew.
Yeah,
Like,
right? Like you don't know what you don't know.
That's
Which
right.
I love. So how do you feel the kids have adapted to like that change? Like do they feel like they're lacking, or have they not even
No.
noticed?
Okay, the thing that like my husband would always say to me, and I'm like, whatever, here's the dad. He's like, kids like the same 5 things. He's like, when we were kids, we never got variety. Not saying that that's bad or worse, but he's just like, they like the same 3 treats, the same 3
Yeah.
vegetables. And I'm like, you're right. Why am I going and buying all these vegetables every week?
Yeah.
Like cauliflower and la la la.
Yeah.
Just so I look at my fridge and go, good job. Like whether or not they ate it or not, I just
Yeah.
was like, I'm doing a really good job buying all this and then throwing it in the trash.
Yeah.
So now that I'm like, I will only buy broccoli. I will only buy apples. I will only like
exactly
you know, just
what
the
you know
set.
they'll eat.
And they're never like, oh mom. And sometimes if they're like, can I have grapes? And be like, oh, well, I'll add that to the next order.
Yeah.
Whereas like before I'd be like, yes, but they're all rotten because no one ate it. Like
Yeah.
And then they become like a little bit special, I guess, because
Yeah.
you don't always have them. But now, yeah, like the kids aren't lacking. Like I'm happier because like I don't have an overwhelm of choices too.
Yeah.
Because I love choices, but I can't have too many.
Yeah.
Because then I won't know what to pick.
Do you feel like this is too many choices?
I don't think so. I think that that's enough. And if I have to like look through cookbooks, which I love to look through cookbooks and pretend I am that person.
Yeah.
And then I get overwhelmed with like, do I have those ingredients? Like, oh my gosh, like I'm much more of a cook it on the fly.
Yeah,
a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Use what we have.
Do your kids eat leftovers?
Okay, yes and no, but mostly no. I find that
We have that issue too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the garbage dumpster.
And that's why I have pressured myself to cook smaller amounts.
Yes.
And I'm like, if it's not enough, there will be yogurt, there will be toast. Like they
Yes.
can have a snack after supper.
Yes.
If whatever I cooked was not enough for everybody, because I don't want to get stuck with it.
Struggle with that though. I find when I make a meal and like there's like nothing left over, sometimes I'm like, yes. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, there wasn't a lot of chicken left. Like I feel like I messed up somehow.
But yeah, sometimes I'll be like, how many mashed potatoes should we make, Andrew? And he's
Right.
like, make 3 potatoes for 5 people. And people are like, my family could never. And then like, of course, my family also could not.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
Lesson
like
learned.
it's like I'll make the meal and the kids only want the mashed potatoes.
Yes.
And then like we're out of mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well I guess you're having toast now. But
Right.
I still, then the time that I make 5 potatoes, like I have to throw the potatoes out, or like I'm eating potatoes for days because that's, so
Yeah.
there's, I don't think you can win. You can try to
No.
get it right.
What I struggle with too is what dinner looks like. When the kids were like smaller, people were always just like, a sit down dinner, a sit down dinner.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, I can't do a sit down dinner. Like my kids won't sit down. Like they learned how to do that, and I tackled that. You know, was more easy with that. But for me in my head and like for what I see online, I feel like sometimes like a failure when like supper is just like, here's a couple pieces of toast and some carrots and like, you know, a well-balanced meal, but it's not a meal. I don't know if that's just how we grew up or that's what people are always like showing like on those beautiful Pinterest pictures or something. But for me, I learned like dinner doesn't have to be, I learned through trial and error.
Let's take a look in your fridge and let's meal prep a couple things.
Okay, ready? Chaos.
No, this is what every fridge looks like. So let's start with like your use first items. Let's see what we can make with that.
Okay.
So anything that's like,
Already cooked.
or just like is gonna go bad sooner than.
We got some mashed potatoes in a Christmas bowl. Ta-da.
Let's take a look at the freezer. So you already have meatballs made.
And I homemade them. Hot dog buns. I don't know if we want to do like meatballs in them.
Meatball subs?
Maybe, yeah, I never tried.
There you go. You're already coming up with all the ideas. You don't need me.
I do need you.
You've got these frozen meatballs.
Yes.
It would make a lot of sense to potentially do like meatballs with mashed potatoes and gravy. Would they eat that?
Sure.
What makes it okay that you don't get a say? Now you're tired of eating the same meals every 4 days, rotating, right?
Yeah.
Let's say 3 meals out of the week that you want. Would you feel guilty if you're still making 4 times a week the things that they want? If on those days that were your days, if they just rejected it, like you'd be disappointed because it's a bummer. What if you make meatballs, mashed potatoes, and gravy, and they only eat the mashed potatoes? Would you feel guilty?
Yes and no, because I would go, but the protein. Right. But then that's something that I just have to talk myself through, right? And be like, that's fine, it is what it is. There we go.
My son like lives off Greek, like that's his whole protein is Greek yogurt.
Okay.
I'm sure he doesn't eat a lot of meat.
See, like you think everybody else's kids eat so much better. Like, I don't know.
I don't think any of them are.
I don't think
You came up with the idea of doing like a meatball sub, but do you have the sauce to do it?
I do.
Do you? When you went from buying all the things all the time
Yeah.
to not buying all the things all the time, how was that received by your husband, your kids, whatever? And also, like, what was the process?
My husband and I get together like every month and we do like what we spend, right? A good eye-opening experience about what we spend at the grocery store and what I spend at the grocery store. It was like a big wake-up call, right? And so that's when he like imposed his logic on me and said, listen, the kids only like 5 things, so why don't we just have the 5 things?
He was thinking.
He was thinking.
How does he like eating the same 5 things? Is
He's
he kind
fine.
of over it?
That really cut down the spending. I always thought, oh, the kids should have variety.
You know what? That's something that I don't think I've ever talked about on my channels, about like just buying less variety being something that could save you a lot of money. Like, and there's really no shame in like your dinner just being like, this is.
I know. I
Like,
never
it doesn't
think
have to be a cooked vegetable unless that's what they want to eat. But
maybe no one shows that. Like,
I
but
think
it just doesn't fit the idea of like dinner. Like,
I'm just gonna pop these in the air fryer to crisp them up a little bit.
Okay.
So the gravy that you normally use is this like brown gravy sauce. Great. But do you ever make mushroom gravy, and would they eat it?
Never made it.
You've never made it?
No.
And would this make you feel like you were eating a completely different meal as opposed to meatloaf and mashed potatoes?
Yes. It will make me nervous and
To feed
excited.
it?
Oh, where are they going to eat it? Look at them directly in the eye.
Right? Okay, so we're gonna add just a little bit of water, not too much.
Okay.
You can always add more later, you can't take it out. Lots of garlic powder.
Okay.
We may add salt, but we gotta taste it because I don't know
right.
this brand well enough to know how salty
Same.
it is. Put it on the stove top. Yeah, let's whisk it. Are they adverse to pepper? My kids are, but I don't know.
They are, yeah.
Okay, so
What
we just
else
put
would you use mushroom gravy for? Like chicken?
Pork chops,
Pork.
you could put it on chicken.
I grew up on casseroles.
Okay, yeah,
So I'm like down. Well, that's good.
was good, right?
Yeah.
And if they don't like it, there's always plain mashed potatoes.
That's right.
What would you normally do for like a vegetable?
Usually just steamed broccoli.
Yeah, I'm
Or
a big fan of like
microwave broccoli.
microwaved vegetables because you can just add them on the side. They don't take any extra work.
None of my kids are like 7 and 8. Like you've kind of been through the trenches.
Yeah.
Like when they're young and like there just seems like there's so much pressure to like exposure. Clean this. Be this mom. If you don't do it now, you're, you know, ruined for life. Like they're never gonna like vegetables. There's so much pressure.
You mentioned earlier that you grew up on like casseroles and stuff.
Yes.
And now your kids won't eat casseroles.
No, they think that they're very scary. And like I kind of get it. There's a lot of mystery to a casserole, but for me that's just my comfort food, right? Oh my gosh, it's like we're at IKEA.
I know it is. Do they like IKEA food? Would they eat this maybe?
We used to go to IKEA all the time.
Mashed potatoes, gravy, meatballs with like a side of microwaved vegetables. Which
That's
we don't
so
need to.
easy.
That's so easy. You would feel like you were eating something completely different.
Yeah, and I would,
meatloaf, and they would probably accept at least some of these components.
I think so, and it would check off the box of like being like, good job. Because I would never have thought to do it that way at all.
Hey, look at you making fancy food.
So fancy. Chef Boyardee.
One of the things that I admire like the most about Erin is how much she lets her kids just like be who they are. I always saw you as being a good mom because you're so involved with your kids. You're always doing things with them, and particularly something that I struggle with a little bit. You let your kids be exactly who they want to be, and it's not that I'm like not letting my kids be who they are, but I very much am guilty of like guiding them towards things that I want to give them the opportunities that I kind of like look back and go like, oh, I wish I had done that. And you just like blanket let your kids be exactly who they are, and I love that because that's honestly how my mom raised me.
It's so funny though, because I give myself grief for that because I'm like, I should be maybe managing them a little bit more. Like, grass is always greener, because I always look at other moms being like, they're doing so much better than me.
Yeah, I think it's super normal to compare yourself, and there's the
Oh, that looks so good.
yeah. So we've got two completely different meals that are kind of a spin-off of meatloaf.
That's amazing. This one really floors me.
I'm glad that this
Blows
was
my mind.
helpful and successful. Yeah. And we're gonna have to get like an update from you
Sure.
and see like what kind of reactions. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.